Hello everyone and welcome back to Automation Empire and to the Dapper Dunes, where in the last episode we set up trains and they're even in a little loop. I feel especially pleased with that. However, odds are we're not going to be keeping our trains in this configuration for over long, simply because I do want to try and move the train lines somewhere where the train line itself is not as hopelessly long as it is here. Right now, this is allowing us to field a fair few trains, though, and that's not too bad. But ultimately, we do want to move on to other things. Now, the order of business for today can be twofold, really. There's two separate jobs that both kind of need doing before we get down to much more in the way of progress. First and foremost, we need to get gold fuels so that we can eventually unlock the oil derrick and then with that start unlocking farming. That is an overall goal for the series. But the second is we could, at this point, afford to refactor some of our factories down around here. Now, what I've done up to now, simply because of the cost of setting these things up, and there was no particular difference between having two small factories and one large one, is we have been refining the materials mined at source and then shipping out the refined version to wherever we want to process it and so on, so forth. However, with the inclusion of water, things do change a bit. Now, from what I understand, the way that water works is each factory takes up a certain amount of water, no matter how big it is. Now, I could be wrong about that. That's capacity uses 10. How much is this? Capacity uses 10. Capacity uses 10. Now, we've not got very different sized factories, if I'm perfectly honest. Capacity used here is 10. So let's just start off with a big old experiment. Plump this down. How much would this use? Capacity used is 10. So it would use the same amount of water no matter what we did, no matter how large the factory. So at this point, having fewer larger factories, which may do combined tasks, or just one task, but for multiple sources. For example, one refining factory for multiple mine clusters would be more cost effective if we were aiming to hook them up to water. And really, we should be, because it does take down the cost a fair old whack. It drops the cost of all the machines inside by 10%. So that is definitely something that we want to look into. But I think the first thing we want to do is at least start the production of gold fuel. Now, we've already got a line that takes everything down to the research base, and then from the research base can ship them off if there's excess. Now, is there going to be excess is a very, very big question. We do have, it seems, an excess of coal, so we could totally make use of that then. Given that we have this excess of coal, how would we want to go about moving it around, though? Now, that is a very, very different problem. We could siphon off... Well, actually, we don't need to worry about the iron. So, yeah, we could just siphon off the coal straight out here. Siphon off a little bit of the gold as well, at least once it is processed, which we're not doing too bad. Probably want to put that into the production of gold fuel first. This is another combiner chain. Now, what we would probably want to do is just go ahead and straight away sell the process the gold fuel, and then later on maybe start selling it to the trains. So what we can do here then is we can repurpose this line entirely, no longer feed this into these silos, and instead take this out to perhaps somewhere over here where we could set up another combiner factory. Now, I've only just said that we should probably look to having a single factory rather than multiple larger factories. So we could probably just redesign this one if we really wanted to. We would lose out on the production inside of the steel, coal, and iron, and that is a bit grating. But on the plus side, it would mean that we wouldn't need to do anything new with the coal being delivered here, because we could pull all from the same line. That isn't a bad idea, you know. That isn't a bad idea at all. So yes, we're going to get on with that. And because there has been a very, very great deal of requests to this tune, we're going to be doing all of this live in this episode rather than doing it me flicking away and doing it off camera. I know. There's a big part of me that's like, but this is, one or two people want to see it, not everyone. But you know what? Every now and then, you've gotta say, hey, just because they're in the minority doesn't mean that we should always ignore what they want. There we go. We'll pop this one there. Now this I'm doing because I'm going to want a little bit more room over here, so I'm going to bring this rail back to offload all of this train. Honestly, I could just run that whole track back if I really wanted to. I'm not sure I'd do though, so for the time being we can avoid it, but we are probably not going to need much more in the way of room, honestly, just a few more tiles. In fact, if we just had 2 tiles along in these directions, well, we'd need room for taking the gold fuel out, but there are many options that we could have here. I don't think we're going to be producing as much gold fuel as we are producing this, simply because we've not got as much gold coming in. But then I could always make that happen. So, with that in mind, I'll pop that down there. I think ultimately we're going to need to reduce the size of these offloaders. I don't think we need as large an offload capacity as we have here. I am going to not worry too much about this being completely emptied out, but I'll allow the steel that we've got here to, no, we'll be here forever because of these huge things down there. So it looks like we're just going to have to bite the bullet and just chop this whole thing up. So, how are we going to bring the gold in, though, before we do that? We could have the gold exit out this side instead of down the bottom, and that would be an easy way to do it. I know. You know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing. We all know what I'm doing. Yes, I'm trying to give as much time for the resources that are there to exit out before I do anything else. Look, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I lied. Alright? It hurts my soul to waste all of this, even though it is functionally infinite. But this should be quite nice. We can just exit, bring out the gold around here. I want to line that up if I can. Now, ultimately, I do want all of these to more or less be in the same sort of spot. There are a couple of other ways that we could run this, actually, that may be worth me looking into. Okay, well, we've got the position of this area here. If I lay down a couple of little things, for example, if I wanted a cart to feed straight in, if I wanted it to be about there we go. So we would need the loading areas to be around here, and we can have a very, very tight little loop, much like we've got down here, but we'll actually have a loop. So what I'm thinking is if we had iron, for example, loading in here and just feeding straight in, we'd have to make sure that the rail carts could turn there. So this is the first available point that we would have. And what I mean by that is this would be the first place where we would be able to have a completely flat track and then have this turn in, because the door has to be in the middle of the 3x3 tiles. So a door there would allow us to feed this tile right here as part of a circuit and then go straight back in on this side as well. That should work quite nicely. So 1, 2, will be somewhere there. That's in the center of the tile. Perfect. Okay, this one will be our iron offload. We'll pop a little loader there. There we go. We'll want a gold one next. And if we have a look around, I can even, just for the time being, pop in a couple of doors just so I can see where I would be dropping these. So one there, one there. Do want another one here. And the last one, unfortunately, would be right there. But then we can have the coal come in from the top. We don't need that coming in from over here. So we just need the gold area to be right there, like so. And that can feed like so. Oh, that actually works out quite well for us. Unfortunately, it does seem to, probably for the sake of performance of the game, do a few little bits and bobs here, and it merges the tracks into one single unit, probably just for the sake of storing that information in the game itself. We're going to want the gold to be offloaded right about here, and then returned to the factory. Now, we don't want to get it in the way, of offloading the iron. But then again, we can have that being offloaded right here. In fact, we may even be able to connect all of this up. But we definitely know that the gold itself needs to come down here via a wagon out of the factory. So let's hook that up right there. And then, since this is a fairly small little train, we can just have a little loop like that, and that should be more than enough, and we can adjust that as necessary later on. Now then, let's see. Are we going to be lucky enough to be able to just connect this up? Because if we can't, that's going to save me a lot of faffing around. We are in line, so there's a good chance. 1, 2, 3, 1, probably not. Wait. Oh, we can. Well, that makes that significantly easier for me. There we go. That is marvellous, if I do say so myself. Now, this route is going to be much, much shorter. In fact, I'm just going to take that away. We'll allow it to come out here a little bit, just so that it can load up properly. But because this route is going to be that much shorter, we don't need to worry as much about the length of the train. In fact, that wagon can be a lot shorter because it's going to have a lot less time between drop-off and pickup for this to accrue any gold. Looks like 3 wagons is about our limit. Alright then, moving... really? It removes the wagons from the end of the cart. But when you've got a wagon that will change directions, the end suddenly becomes the front. There we go, that should be more than enough. And with only 3 wagons there, this can be a lot shorter already. Let's go ahead and take care of that. And how much further do you need? Do you actually need to exit the factory? You don't really, and I'm not even sure that you would be able to make use of all 3. Oh no, you did manage it in the end. That's actually quite nice. Well, let's see if this is long enough now. Have a good watch of you. There we go. Marvellous. That is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right, let's have a look inside. Oh, we did. Ah, fantastic. No waste. Okay, so we're going to have to work on this one in pause because it's going to take us a fair bit of time and we're going to be wasting a lot of resources while we're doing it otherwise. So with that done, let's go ahead and lay down our factory. Now, we know that the factory perimeter is going to be here. So let's draw this out. And along, unfortunately, because these tracks are here, I am going to have to delete them out of the way. But with that done, we should be able to pop this back down. Now, once again, we know the dimensions we're going to have here. Oh, really? Can I not? Oh, for some reason I can't build there. Why is that then, I wonder? Is it because of the building here? It's remarkably strange, but let's go ahead and delete this back just in case. Sometimes the game does have kind of strange conflicts with placements that don't really have any rhyme or reason. No, it looks fine now, but oh well. Let's pop that in position and then see, as long as we can hook this back up. Yes, we can hook it up. I have no idea why it didn't like that, but it didn't, but that's fine. We'll go along with you, game. There we go. And connect it up there. Perfect. Right then. Now, if we're super, super lucky, we'll be able to hook this up in much the same way. But first, and indeed foremost, let's get these doors in. One there, one there, one there, one there. And we'll lay down the tracks. I do apologize for having explained something verbally without really any visual feedback. I know that's a lot harder to digest, but this is what I was aiming for. We want a nice little loop. Now, we can have it a very, very little loop, but I think it's actually a little bit more visually striking if we do something like this. Oops, slightly offset. Now, you could, and in fact, I'll again, because I'm just talking about describing things rather than showing them, there are a couple of options when it comes to hooking up a source. Now that we've got access to the, I keep wanting to say underground belt, but really the remote connectors. Now, these ones are obviously fairly easy. We can have gold coming in on yellow. We can have iron coming in on blue. Now, here is the problem. As we only have... we're not going to be able to set up the same kind of combiner setup that I previously had, because we aren't going to be able to connect. We'd need 4 different remote connectors to take the output out of these as well. So we're going to have a slightly different setup for these. But I still think we should be able to manage all 3 in the same facility without too much trouble. But as I was saying, the way that these would connect up, we can simply extract for there and for there, and that's fine. It goes into the tank and then gets extracted out to wherever we have a connector. Alternatively, if you really wanted to, you could do something like this. In this case, it's a drop-off, but we could use a collection. So something like this, and then connect it up right there. So at this point, as this gets collected, it gets taken somewhere. We're not going to be doing that in this particular instance. Right. Now then, the easiest way, I think, for us to manage the combiners would be to have the combiners output into tanks, and for those tanks to ultimately connect up down here, because otherwise we would need actually we'd need 5. 1 for the coal going into the combiners, 1 for the iron going in, 1 for the gold going in, 1 for the steel coming out, and 1 for the gold fuel coming out. As you can imagine, that is far, far more than we have. But we should still be able to make all of this work for us. Now, where would I like to place a track connection? Could I wonder, connect up? Well, no, we wouldn't really be able to do it down there. What I would like is something similar to what we have at the top over there. Now that would put the... Ooh, no, we couldn't quite have that line up in this way because we would not be able to connect my tank. So the tank is going to have to go over here. Very well. Let's see if we can make this happen then. So we want a coal tank right there. And I've chosen, I think, to have the coal deposited into the combiners via the underground belts, via the remote connectors, and then we'll just pipe out the contents of the combiners, the product of the combiners. Now, is it going to be easier for me to get this down there? I don't know. We may need just a very long track, or we might be very lucky and be able to connect up the way we've done elsewhere. We'll have to see. Let's do this. There we are. And down. Now then, can we fit this in neatly? Oh, we can. Oh, that is absolutely glorious. Wonder lovely. There we go. Let's get rid of all of these and drop down the tracks as well. So there we are. Perfect. Now, the way we are going to manage this is we're just going to have a cart, probably a few. We'll pop 4 down just because we don't ever want these to completely run out, really. There we go. You could completely saturate the line and have them more or less as one is loading, the other part of the wagon is offloading, which would be quite visually striking, I imagine, but not exactly where I'm going with it. Now, this may necessitate changing this up a little bit, so I'm just going to allow the trains to continue emptying this out if they can. But we should now... Ooh, I've got these... Are they all pointing in the wrong way? How did I manage that? I've only got one of them that's actually working. Oh my lord. I apologize. I was kind of... That was so bad. It's actually... don't even feel bad about it. I'm kind of impressed with myself at that point. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that moment where you failed so majestically. Yeah, you can't be angry at that. At least I can't. Right. Okay, so we want gold fuel coming out down here. Now, the way that we're going to hook this up, that is going to be a little bit more of a concern. Let's have a quick gander at the overall setup we're going to have. This is going to take up a lot more room now because we are offloading directly into a container. Now, how many of these could we fit? Probably a reasonable amount, if I'm honest. So, if we assume the closest one would be, let's say, for the sake of the initial setup, let's just pop in something like this. There we go. Then this would move on down to the next. This one would be fed from a little bit further away, though, I should imagine, to allow me to easily place them. So I'm going to need it a little bit overall further back. It's not gonna look as nice. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's gonna look a little bit more janky, but that's fine. And since we're gonna be embracing the jank, we may as well just shift everything back a little bit. So we still want this about there and about here. There we go. This one will just get a nice little one. This one will get a much larger one. There we go. And this is the way that we're going to feed these into each other. All right, so there we go. That one won't be too bad. Now, how many of these could we fit? I mean, depends on this side a little bit. And for the sake of, once again, embracing the jank, we'll just do it like that. I know it probably hurts some of you, but I think it's kind of pretty, especially if this works as I hope, and we can set it up on the other side in much the same way. So if we do this down here, and this one only has one tile, can we fit enough in the whole system? Ooh, it's going to be a tight squeeze. It is going to be a tight squeeze, but I think we might be... Oh, we can. Ha ha ha! Fantastic. I approve. Right, so knowing this, we're safe. The only issue now is in how we're going to deliver these materials. So let's see. So that would give us 8 for each if we wanted that many. I can guarantee you we don't. But at that stage, well, the problem here is delivering it direct out of the factory. That one's going to be a little bit more of a tricky proposition. If we had... No, we can't fit that in. I guess if we had one of these down here, we would be able to. Yeah, we could do that. Let's remove these last two from the ends. So we'll have 6 on each. That's not quite as good, I agree, but it's not terrible either. There we are. So 6 steel, 6 gold fuel for now. We would then have a rail line, or a wagon line rather, just popping in, collecting the produce and then popping back out. That shouldn't be too hard to arrange, though the particular configuration does leave something to be desired, I will confess. Just because of the way it's going to line up. The doors have to be in the middle of each tile, you see. So that doesn't strictly line up the way I would want. No matter how we look at this, we're going to have some wasted space. So may as well go for the larger yield of product then in that case, since we're just going to have to accept and embrace the jank once again. This time, though, what we could do is we could have a little... maybe... Well, in fact, we could just shift stuff across to the side, but honestly, what I'm thinking here is we'll just have a little S-bend somewhere around here, just to bring it in line. Something like that would do. Though that is a little bit off to the side. This does present some curious problems for me. I'm not going to lie. The other thing we could do is we could always have an S-bend coming down to pick it up, but then getting back out is the problem at that stage. We may just have to accept that. Something along these lines and just have a little journey there. We'll get rid of this tank outside. There we go. And we would want the steel to be delivered just out here, so probably pop a door around here, I'm thinking. Right there. Now, this is going to reduce how fast we can move this stuff out, which is the big problem for us, but we're just going to have to embrace that one. And then out here, we can have... Honestly, for us to make use of such a large train, we are going to have a really large offload. So pop that one there, that one there. Increase that one by a step of 1. There we go. I almost did it wrong again. But I didn't really. There we go. And there we are. That is our steel line reconnected. I imagine a couple of you, much like myself, have just been watching my money going down little by little. Very worryingly. Right, let's get the iron hooked up. We're going to need one there. One here. And... oh, no. Ah, dear, I did not consider that. Well, and I don't believe that these can connect straight up. No, they can't. Drat damn blast. We needed an extra line then, and we don't have an extra line to give it. There we go. Embrace the jank once again. We pulled everything back across. In fact, in a way, this is less janky. Kind of. Not really, but it's close enough that I'm not going to complain too much about it. There we go. Now we can get all the iron back in where it needs to be, and then hook all of that up. There we are, glorious. And then the coal lines will start being connected up here. There we go. And marvelous. Pump. There we are. Okay, so our steel lines should be producing steel, which will then be making its way down to the other trains down there. And that is absolutely fantastic. Ah, I'm so happy. Okay, well, we're just going to leave it to this right now, because we want to get the gold set up and running. And so we're going to need to pop down 3 over here. There we go. And in fact, connect all of these up all the way down as well. There we are. And there we go. Pop that one in there. Right, we're going to want the gold being supplied from the bottom this time. So there, and there. Once again, though, we want coal. And this is where the coal is really going to start being gobbled up. And then just hook everything up to the lines. There we go. And gold fuel should be being made. Oh, glorious of days. Alright, now, have we got enough room over here? I don't think we've got enough room on this side to hook this up the way we're going to need it to be hooked up. So we're going to have the air spend down there, and just hope of hopes, yes, we've got enough room there. Fantastic. There we are. Alright, it's almost like it was planned, only you know it wasn't, because you saw me make all the mistakes that I made. So no one can claim otherwise. Alright, how many do we need? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fantastic. Pop down an offloader there. Look at that glorious gold fuel. Don't tell me in the comments what you think it looks like. I know. I can see it as well. Just shh. Pretend. Right, pop that one in there. Now then, to deliver the gold fuel, this one's going to be a little bit more of a problem. Now, the other big part of this problem is that we're going to be hooking up not to this line. Well, really, I need to get rid of the contents here. Honestly, at this point, I think the best thing that we can do is connect up the steel line and just allow steel to be offloaded as our main cash crop for now. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. Ultimately, the gold is more valuable, but right now it's more valuable to us in terms of its research potential. There we go. Let's get rid of all of this, all the way back. There we are. Perfect. Right, then, let's get the connection up and indeed running. There we go. There we go. Excellent. That one should be pointing the other direction. Well, it doesn't really matter, but I would like it to be. There we go. There we are. Marvellous. Now, this... we're really not producing nearly enough, but it'll come with time. Now, on this side, we once again want to connect up the product. I'll just pop that in there. And a loader. And another 3 carts. There we go. Marvellous. Right, with that, we can hook up the water as well. Now, this one's going to be quite important, because once that's hooked up, then this whole factory starts using up 10% less taxes, or rather power per. Your taxes will eventually increase to, you know, fill in whatever gap you manage to make for yourself, but it's fine for now. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Now, are we able to outproduce the amount that we are able to shift with just 3 carts? Yeah, kind of. It does seem that we're making enough to overload that. Well, actually, no. With 3 carts, each one of these will be able to handle the output from 2 each cart. So, yeah, we can handle 6 overall refiners. It's still not going to really make enough of a dent, I feel, but, well, it's the best we can do, so we're just going to have to like it. There we go, and pop that one in here. Feed in coal, feed in the iron. There we go. And done. Perfect. There we go. We'll have 6 refiners feeding this little train over here. Now, obviously at this point, that is really not enough, but I'm not entirely sure how many refiners we had working previously. So I can't say for certain on that one. Let's have a quick watch of how this one does. Well, about half the train isn't being used. That is not good. So let's pull this down to about, we'll have 10 carts on it, and we'll just see how it goes from there. Because we hadn't really afforded this enough time to properly start gathering materials. Oh, it's actually starting to backlog a little bit. Nice. We might, if we wanted to, have a bit of a bigger track here. We could do that. Let's go ahead and set that up. So we want a slightly longer track on this side. So we'll just tuck this up along inside there. And likewise, we want to do the same down here as well. So once again, just tuck this down and along. Then add a couple more carts. Because whilst, yes, one cart can take the product of 2 refiners, well, that's assuming that the cart is always loading from the refiners, that there's no downtime, but there clearly is, given that the cart has to travel back and forth. So this seems to be a pretty good solution. We won't have a final cart there because we can easily afford the space. Let's just make sure that we can load them all on this side. I've been very guilty of that through this series, of not double checking that, but there we go. That should work out a little bit better. Okay, not too bad, all things considered. In fact, yes, we've gotten to the point now where we are actually loading the full cart. Only just, but still, it's not too bad. We're seeing all of these loaded. No, that's actually getting quite nice. I approve. And gradually, this is siphoning all of the product from this side over onto this side. And I'm fine with that, honestly. The trains are doing their job quite admirably. Now, we want to connect up to this track, heading down to our research facility. And we don't need to do anything more than that. So let's go ahead and see if we can't just bring this down, like so. And then, would we be in a position where we could connect that up? Oh, this would be glorious if we could. I think we can, in fact. Oh, my lord. Well, that worked out rather amazingly, I must say. Rather amazingly. Wow. Okay, I approve. Let's get the offloaders going, and then the remainder of the track. Now, this is going to be quite a large train, so I'm going to snake this around, and we might even want to snake it again, but we'll see. Let's add as many carts as we can for now. There we go. We'll go. Well, actually, we could easily handle all 18 of them. So this one will skip every other one as they're coming down, and then. Yeah, we may be able to get this going. I want to do a similar connection over here, though. To that end, I'm going to curve this track a little bit on there, and then curve that up. Something like that. Should give us enough room to be able to add a little bit more room for our gold output. Because right now, we're overloading this, this whole system. Let's have a look at our gold. Oh, dear me. I completely forgot about this. Let's drag that out a little bit, because this is a very long wagon now, considering what we're asking it to do. There we are. How much more room am I going to need? Maybe 2 more. That would be my guess. Let's see if I was right. Looks like I am. Haha! I love being right. Perfect. Okay, well, we are now starting to research Goldfield, and indeed, we will then be selling the stuff as well, which is going to be very nice. That'll give our trucks a little longer lease on life, because it was getting to the point where I was really strongly considering just getting rid of all of this. But no, I think this is going to be grand. Let's get everything down on this side. Now, of course, this has not been the best use of this area for quite some time, but we'll see how that goes. We've got gold fuel being delivered. Oh, that's fantastic. Let's go and have a quick look at the value of gold fuel. Gold fuel is the same weight as steel, so that's great. How much is it worth, though? 2,989. Well, I mean, you know, that's going to be going down slowly over time, but I'm fairly certain that it's a bit higher than steel itself in raw value, so that should be quite nice for us. Not really seeing the trucks being used to their fullest, I must confess, but that's not terrible, I suppose. We'll see how this goes. This is more of an overflow than anything else, if we're perfectly honest. The trains are doing the lion's share of work by shifting all of the steel for us, and it seems that they're doing that quite handily. I don't think we need to worry too much about upgrading the gold, though. Having a gold train wouldn't be a bad one. It would not be a bad option if we could afford to set one up. Perhaps something over here. We could offload some extra gold to it, maybe. It's a bit of a tricky one there, because I could have the gold being just siloed on this side, and then it would pick up the slack if there was ever an empty wagon on this train, but I'm not sure that there ever will be with the amount of steel that we're producing right now. How are we doing down here as well? We're doing reasonably well. I mean, the gold, obviously, our meager production right now is massively overproducing for what we can use. Though our coal situation has grown quite grim. Ooh, that is something that we can fix, though, very easily just by setting up a little refining operation down here and delivering it over there. That won't be a problem. But looking at the time, I do believe it's getting toward that point where we need to consider wrapping things up. But no, I don't feel right about leaving a problem. So let's go and fix that before we do anything else. We are going to want another coal setup. Now, do we want more water for this? How are we doing for water? We couldn't afford it, even if we did want it. So we're just going to have to accept no extra water over here for now. We could, of course, set up some water, but I don't really think that's strictly necessary. Right, we are going to want to drop off the coal ore all in one spot if we could. Let me just have a quick gander. What's the connection like? Not perfect. Not perfect at all. On the flip side, though, if we did something like this, that would actually hook up correctly. All right. No, that does work after all. Never mind. Just slightly premature turn there. Let's get that down. We could set up a little bit of a ring. I'm not sold on that, but with a view to our future upgrades to our smelting situation, and I know, I'm making a problem for myself right now over here, in that I'm setting up a new mining operation that isn't going to be hooked up to any central smelting. But I'd rather get my steel and gold production issues resolved right now before we move forward, and then come back and revisit this situation a little bit later. There we are. Marvelous. Right, we just need 3 carts. Oh, there we go. And we can have them deposit into, let's say, a little spot down here. In fact, I can quickly give you a demonstration of what my intentions are with regard to a central smelting factory. Now, in this case, I am going to just have this drop off into an external tank because that's the way the factory will work. But in that's the wrong way around. But in the future, or rather in this situation, normally you just have the loop going into the factory. You wouldn't necessarily have it dropping off outside. It's just adding extra work for you, really. We would want at least this wide. And then I think we got it down to 4x6. So let's see. Oh, sorry, 5x6. Let's see if we can squeeze all of this into an even smaller space, actually. Ooh. Let's try. Yeah, let's wrap up this episode with a little bit of a challenge to myself. We may need this a little bit closer, but okay. Let's try a very small 4x4 build. Could we make it work on a 4x4? It is a question for you. I think it's possible. Let's see. We are going to try. We would want... I do believe that you need an overflow. You can't get by without an overflow tank for the input. The product doesn't matter, but the input has to have an overflow because with the way that we use the crates, if you don't have that overflow, then all that comes from that is that you eventually send a crate through the system that has nothing in it, and then it's just a waste of your packer, in my opinion. And with this, we can just have a single cart just dancing back and forth. Should be good enough. That can run 4 machines at any one time. Right, now with this in mind, we can just go ahead and pop that on orange. Well, actually, we'll keep it themed with the other factory, and we'll have it on green. Right, so with that, we're going to want an input point and a packer. So let's grab the packer. We could have the packer fairly just tucked away in the corner somewhere down here, for example. Actually, having the packer in the between the loader and unloader is probably a better idea. So let's decide where we're going to put those first. Though I do need to have an idea of how large the packet is. It's about yay large. That's fine. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to need that right there. And then these going down, like so. Nice and easy. We will have a unloader right here. We will have a loader right there. The loader will be fed via coal. The unloader will be feeding, well, in this case, we'll just go with blue. There we are. And we'll also want a transfer claw. There we are. Now that is our entire loading system. Now we do need an exit point for the refined coal, but again, we don't necessarily need that to be a overflow. It is useful for it, but if you send a refined coal back through the system, it'll just pass through the system without being changed. It'll just kind of clog the system up a tiny bit, but it's not going to be the end of the world. Right, so we're going to want an unload station down here. Now, typically I would say you want as many unload stations as you have refiners, but we're gonna try and squeeze through with just this many for now. Then you're going to want the actual refiners. Ah, there we go. We've run into our problem. We can't squeeze in full. Well, dread, damn, and blast. We could probably do something with flipping this on its side, maybe, because this does take up quite a lot of room, but it is a 3x3 structure either way, so I don't really think we'd be able to save that much more room. The only saving would possibly be in the sense that we'd be able to shunt everything back up a little bit. Let's give it a try, though. Let's see how tightly we can squeeze this factory. Let's go back and get our packager. Pop you right there. I mean, strictly speaking, we could even have the rotation down here by having it fed in from the top. So something along this line, there and there. That's actually quite possible. We'd want, say, since we've got 4... Oh, wrong ones. I need these to be loaders. Since we have 4 refiners, if we want that fourth one to be spotted in, wrong thing, we need it there. It's going to be a tight squeeze, but I think we can manage it. This is going to be the most ridiculous little system just for the sake of doing it that I've ever made. I don't feel proud of this. I want you to know that. Right, there we go. And we're going to want a right-hand turn. Right there. Now then, we're going to want our loaders once again. So, unloader and loader. Unloader feeding to orange. Loader being fed by green. There we go. And then we're going to want our little claw transfer. Or transfer claw. Right, okay, and then in exactly the same way that we always have, we have... Oh, damn it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on this side, we want 1, 2, 3, 4 of loaders. There we are. And then we want a claw train. Now, I'm being a bit of a... taking a bit of a risk here, in that I'm not checking that I have enough room to fit all of the materials that I'm going to need, but we'll find out if I've got egg on my face at the end of the of this little test. There we go. So we want to unload here, 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 and here. We want to load here. Now, if I really want to, I could have it try and load all 4 at once. And I know that it is sense to that because it stops, it drops, stops, it drops, and it takes longer to move through, whereas if you just had the whole train move over, then all of the claws drop down, grab all 4, and then move on. It's a bit better, but in this system, considering I'm making it as tight as this, I think I'm going to err on the side of caution this time, and just have one load area and one pickup area. And we'll just allow the claw train to stop for everything. There we go. There we are. Marvellous. So that gives us everything we need there. Now, the tricky part is getting this back out. Now, again, you don't strictly need a buffer. It is sometimes useful. But in this tight of a factory, are we going to be able to afford to... You know... we could. Technically. And that's the best kind of could. Alright. We can make this happen. Just... if I popped that there and had this wagon train just curve. Ah, no, that wouldn't work there, but... and again, we don't strictly need this. We could just have it offload as and when. But that would then rely on there always being a cart there. Otherwise, the system would eventually back up and break. But we could do something like this instead. Have this train coming through. And... no, I think we may just be ever so slightly off. Unless I can run them alongside, I can't. Drat, damn and blast. I really thought we were in with a bit of luck there. But it looks like we're scuppered right at the end. Just because of that connection. Because we can't just squeeze it down a little bit more. Is there any configuration within which I can do that? I don't think there is. I can't rotate this in any meaningful way. Oh, wait. Of course. That door right there. Oh, I'm such a derp. I imagine a bunch of you managed to spot that straight away. Well done you if you did. There we go. You can just do that instead. Now we've got a superfluous door, and that's going to grate on my nerves, but... oh well, that's the price of my initial failure to notice it. I'm gonna learn from this mistake, because my brain is going to be itching so much as a result of it. That seems fair. You know, punishment to fit the crime. Right, okay, so with that, we would just deliver straight back out and into another container, and then, you know, you take that off somewhere else, like so. There we go. But in this case, we're actually going to wagon it straight down the other side. we'll probably want a nice big curve there. Because it'll be a reasonable sized wagon, I should imagine. Right, we want it to come over down here. Actually, we could just go up and over right there. And then, oh, actually, that will interfere. I am almost certain it will interfere. Let's just have a look if, oh, it would work. Huh, okay. Take it back then. That seems to work fine. And I am pleased by it. There we go. Connect up there. And we're going to have to accept that we can't have this as a high tier track the whole way. I mean, I could take it all the way up to the 3rd tier, but honestly, I don't actually like the look of the 3rd tier rails. Once they get that tall, it seems a bit silly. There we go. Or perhaps it's more the kind of the way that the rails step up that I dislike. Either way, I'm not a big fan. Let's have that go the other way just so I can make sure that you can grab everything. We're going to have 6 carts on there. Perfect. And with that, finally, we'll hook this up and then lose it. I knew it was going to happen. There was part of me that knew it was about due. All right, well, let me get rid of this then and pop down another power station. Pop. There we go. And everything is back up and running. And we should see this starting to work marvelously. There we go. Oh, of course. Yeah, it's not going to do much without the claw trains, is it? No. Now, if I... Well, actually, we are going to need the skips on this claw train just to make sure that everything actually gets used properly. But other than that, we should be fine. There we go. That should be immediately offloaded. Straight in there. And on. Alright, there we go. We can add our 1 cart here. Alright, there we are. Now that was a very, very tight little design. We had almost no spare space. Honestly though, except for the blunder there, reasonably efficient little build. Considering it's only taken up 4 by 5, I believe it was. And that is a saving of 1 along each axis, because the previous ones were 5 by 6. So yeah, that's actually probably as from looking at it, with the buffers, is as tight as you're going to get it. If you were willing to go without these buffers and accept that occasionally a piece of refined coal would go back through the system for no particular purpose, or occasionally you just dump a crate because it didn't manage to get filled in time because there wasn't a wagon nearby, you could tighten this system up a little bit more. Would you be able to tighten it enough to get an entire row out? Probably not. Honestly, I'm not sure you'd be able to. But who knows? You might be able to surprise me. But I think this is pretty good as it is, and I'm fairly happy with that. Are you not loading? Of course you're not going to be loading. Why would you be loading? I'm a dope. Why have I gotten so bad at doing that lately? I don't know. Have a look down here. You shouldn't be loading that up on that side. No, you're not good. But oh, yeah, wow. It's probably all the residual Christmas booze in my system causing me to make such horrible decisions. Either that or the amount of honey and lemon I've been drinking has accidentally got me super, super drunk. Basically, it's proto-mead because of my sore throat. At least that's the excuse I'm going with. Yes, that's it. I'm blaming the Vikings. Bloody mead, my lord. But on that note, with gold fuel being processed and researched with, an almost entirely empty wagon there. Wow, that's bad. But we have moved over most of our facilities now. So we've got steel being delivered over here straight into one train. We have gold fuel not being processed quite as quickly as I'd want. It does look like the issue there is the coal, though. So hopefully this will help a little tiny bit, but we do need a lot more coal coming into the system. I think with that, though, we would probably be good. Wow, we got a lot of gold fuel there, though. Egad, that's not bad at all. Let's actually have a quick look. Have we gone through all? Yeah, we've gone through all of our gold fuel now. Making about $200 more, well, $399 more on each shipment of gold fuel over steel plates. How much gold fuel have we researched? Well, none so far, but how much could we? We could research all of it, I should suspect. We'll have a quick look. Let's claim all of this. Womp, womp, and indeed womp. Yes, by far and away, all the gold fuel we needed. So we can actually, in the next episode, move on to working with oil. But I suspect the next episode will at least be partially focused on redesigning some of our previous factories, because I really would like to bring all of this to something approaching efficiency, if not efficient. But that is going to be it from me. So I really do hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it amusing, the trials and tribulations. I am actually reasonably pleased with this tiny little refiner there. Do let me know if you've come across a more compact design than this. By all means, drop a comment down below. But that is going to be it from me. So until next time, and as always, do take care, everyone. And for those of you who celebrate it, Merry belated Christmas.